Merrick, why have we returned to my village? These are good people.
You know why. Your lies have betrayed the Order, brother.
People of Dunstock, this town is found guilty of harboring an Illosan heretic. By command of the Order, you shall witness the price of this treason.
Nadia?
Vidaga, please, I've done nothing wrong!
This is madness! My wife is no Illosan.
Surely this is a mistake.
Listen to reason, Hector.
Nadia Oriah, may your accursed Illosan blood be scourged in the light of the flame.
Enough, Hector! I won't let you hurt her!
Stop this! You forget yourselves!
And you forget your oath, brother. All of you, repeat your oaths.
Not for my glory! For the light! Not for my brother! For the light! Not for my brother! For the light!
Edwin, speak your oath.
Please! Edwin! She's innocent!
For the light.
Good. Light the pyre.
No!
Merrick, cleanse this betrayer in the creek.
Oh, don't worry. You'll not hear her screams much longer.
Now, to the matter of the infant. Edwin, I leave this to you. Ah, Edwin. Come. We've much to discuss.
Hello, my name is Yusa, and I'm an associate producer on Age of Darkness, and I'm here with
Shane. Hey everyone, I'm Shane. I'm a designer on Age of Darkness, primarily responsible for Mission 6, among other missions. And today, we're going to be going through Mission 6, and we're going to be giving you a bit of an insight into the process, and also talk a little bit about some of the lessons we learned and how we're kind of building towards Act 3, which will be coming out soon. So yeah, how about we get it kicked off? And yeah, we can start talking about Mission 6 was actually the first mission that I built for the game. So it went through a lot of different iterations, especially as we found our process. So I'm really keen to start thinking through some of those. It was definitely a very interesting mission to build. Yeah, because you did QA testing originally on this mission, right?
this was a while ago. Before I became a producer, I was a QA for Age of Darkness, and I know that we released Acts 1 and 2 in April earlier this year.
Feels like a lifetime ago.
It does feel like a while ago, and I know that Mission 6 is a part of Act 2, which you worked very closely with, which had a lot of changes to it.
Yeah.
Because back when I was a QA on it, it was very different to what I will be showcasing today.
Yeah. So we'll talk about those changes probably a little later, but for now, I just want to really highlight the work of our cutscene designer, Derek. This cutscene, so the way it works mainly is that as designers, we come up with dialogue and sort of the general staging of a cutscene, but then we hand off a really rough block out towards Derek, who is our project art lead, all around extraordinaire, amazing person, and he basically makes it look good. So as we can see here, after the events of Mission 5, which if you haven't played it, Edwin is eventually imprisoned by the rebellion. But meanwhile, one of the primary characters, Aurelia, is currently in a bit of a bind. As you can see, she's in a cell here with Merrick, another one of the Order heroes. And things are not going too well for the cast at this point. So really, this mission is kind of like a turning point for the narrative, in that as we go going towards Act 2, we start to explore more of Aurelia and Zygo and the Volatists, who haven't really been featured too much. And it was really important from the beginning of this mission, because this mission was very much the introduction of the Volatists and going through the different units, like the cultists swarming through the prison. That was a really important tonal piece that we wanted to touch upon. And yeah, as you can see here, things have gone very wrong. The Volatists are now basically very quickly, suddenly, and almost out of nowhere, flooding the prison. So the rebellion's time here seems to be at a risk. Yeah, I think this cutscene itself went through so many different iterations of staging and timing. I did times I didn't think we'd quite be able to pull it off. Especially in the way our engine works, there's a lot of complexities around switching out scenes and such. But we really rallied together, and we were able to bring it to like functional quality, which I think is a really good testament towards the passion behind our team. There's a lot of really cool work that went in here, especially from VFX, from art, from design. So myself there. Yeah, this is probably also one of the longest cutscenes in Act 2.
What were some of the difficulties when structuring and fleshing out a cutscene? Because for me, moving into production, one thing that I completely undervalued was voice actors.
Yeah.
Recording and getting them implemented and making sure that we had the lines prepared beforehand.
So a big part of it was that when most of the time we were working on cutscenes, we were using placeholder VO, so like Robo Voice. If you think Microsoft Sam, maybe a little bit more advanced than that. But yeah, a lot of the timings and such have to rely on an actor. So once we get the final VO in, we then tend to kind of adjust a lot of the cutscene timings to match the kind of cadence of the way an actor speaks. Yeah, it's definitely from a writing perspective, a lot of it comes from there's a lot of back and forth with our lead narrative designer Patch. About kind of like what are the character motivations and where do we have to start and where do we have to reach. What I mean by that is that if this cutscene particularly was really difficult because we had to get Aurelia and Zygo together to go off somewhere. We had to get Merrick out of the prison for the next mission, and we also had to get Edwin together with Alice and Cyrus, and make it feel believable the reason why he's kind of like now working with the rebellion, who had just imprisoned him. So this cutscene in particular had a lot of different iterations, just trying to get that to feel right. So yeah, you're coming up into now the first cell area, and this area actually, from I think the time our first iterations, this mostly stayed the same. I'm really proud of this encounter, but we introduced the cell mechanic as sort of a prime concept for the level pretty early on. And it was a really cool, it ended up being a really cool feeling of basically being like running through this prison under siege as you're freeing the Volatists. Oh, sorry, freeing the Order. More on the freeing the Volatists later, actually. There's a funny story there. But yeah, this encounter came together really quickly. And originally, funnily enough, we tried this idea where we had the Volatists basically freeing their own prisoners. So you would see these huge rushes of Volatist cultists coming in and bursting cells open, which sounded really cool on paper. But when we actually came to playtesting and gameplay, we found it was actually very confusing towards players as to why a non-player agent was opening cells. It's one of those things that sounds really good on paper, but didn't really turn out well in execution. So we ended up cutting that back.
Yeah, something I love in the section back here is all the objects and just the detail and the different types of towers and walls we got here, the destroyed assets on fire, and getting these cage doors opening.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was definitely a really big credit to the set dressers. It was Hannah and Derek, who really came through and built a lot of really cool props. It created prison becomes one of the really unique environments throughout the campaign. I think that's a really cool standout thing that even in Act 3 we're going to see more of, is kind of going through these unique environments to this world. And I think, yeah, you have players like are going to have a lot of fun going around different types of cities and such in Act 3. But this prison was really, came together as a really unique environment. And we're going into, as we refer to internally, Encounter 3. And it's really, there's a lot of attention to detail that goes on. Like, if you notice, all of the rebel guards fighting the cultists and such, we do all of that scripting by hand. So we set up a trigger volume that basically, as you walk through, We enable attack on the cultists and the rebels. We even set their health parameters so that like we time it exactly that you're watching a cultist completely overwhelm a rebel soldier and kill them. Everything in this mission is actually really timed. There was a lot of time spent just on that attention to detail. And even in the movement, as you move around, we set up all these different trigger zones so that the encounters feel more alive. And the cultists will kind of almost track the player as well. Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into the scripting behind this in many of our missions.
I guess a lot of tuning would have to go into that in order to get the correct sequences to line up right to tell the story in a really nice way.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a really difficult process. To sort of like take something that's very simple in the concept and then execute on it properly to the vision that you want. It's one of the biggest challenges in all game design, and I'm pretty proud of the way that Mission 6 was able to come together to kind of feel like this intensely paced prison break encounter.
One thing I'm absolutely loving at the moment is Edwin's new crack fire ability. I don't know.
Well, the new VFX.
Yes. Oh, it's very satisfying to build up and the slam down. I guess one thing that I hadn't thought about is how do you balance around allowing players to use hero abilities in the campaign mode?
So we actually set up a lot of opportunities for where hero abilities are going to make the most sense to use. So, for instance, you just walk through a rebel gate there, and while you didn't do it this time, we created a situation where we have sentinels walking through there, which is a perfect opportunity to just crack fire through a choke point and blast a bunch of sentinels. And here we come to one of my favorite moments in the campaign, which is we get to play as two heroes at once. At this point in development, we had never done this before. So it was really exciting to finally be able, early on in the vision, to really express the point of like, we've got to try and have different perspectives on this level. Because if you think about it, this is one of the only campaign missions where we have every hero in the mission as an active entity. So it's really important to us to sort of show all of these different perspectives and also give you the opportunity to play with their powers. Like this gatehouse here. But actually, so funny story about this gatehouse. This used to be a puzzle. So for a while there, we had this whole puzzle set up where you'd have these three levers, and you would basically be trying to open this correct set of gates to move through. And this didn't last too long. In playtesting, we later found that like with the type of RTS mission experience, having a puzzle like that slowed down the pacing too much. So we ended up turning it into more of a straightforward combat encounter. Internally, we refer to this as Gatehouse. But I really like this section as it really gives you a chance to use sort of like some of Cyrus's snipe abilities, his caltrops. It's really a lot of fun to play as Cyrus in this area.
You can definitely still feel the puzzle pieces are still there, but not as too dynamic to get to the end goal.
Fun fact, that lever opening animation that just happened, that was the last thing I did on this mission, was I added that animation in. We had a bunch of animations made by Derek for all these different props, and I remember the last thing I did on the mission was, putting it into that when you trigger the cutscene, the first thing you see is the gate opening, so I wanted to make it sound like, when I heard Cyrus's VO line, where it like sort of has an effort of exertion, I was like, okay, we got to make sure something is moving at this point. So that's another example of how once the VO comes in, we'll make slight adjustments to match the actor's performance.
Yeah, one thing I love about this mission is you can hear, I think we have 4 heroes here, don't we? Cyrus, Edwin, Vizago, and Alis.
Yes, and we have Merrick at the beginning as well.
And Merrick.
And Aurelia, although Aurelia was not quite in her hero stage yet.
Ooh, spoilers. I think that's already been announced.
We've been slightly talking about it. Should be coming more into place for Act 3. But we're starting to build up to what I would say is the crux of the story. This encounter, this is one of the
that was a nice crack.
Yep, that's what as I was saying before, as we set up opportunities where using abilities is going to make a lot of sense and provide a really good sort of experience to the player. This was a
nice
big encounter.
Fighting with the rebellion army.
Yeah, no, definitely. That was something I really wanted to capture. Was having these big armies, kind of voltists and rebellion, kind of charging at each other. And as a player, you have the choice to either go around or even join in the fight with them. And this cutscene, so this is a very, narratively important cutscene. Yeah, we're starting to see kind of Vizago taking Aurelia away, and Edwin himself is kind of left in this kind of powerless situation where he's really unable to convince her that whatever the Volatists may say or do, their goal is inherently unjust. But yeah, we've been building up to this throughout the whole campaign, so I think it's a really impactful moment.
Yeah, for those that don't know, our voice actor for Vizago is Peter Wicks. I find he just has an amazing job here, just showcase Vizago and his personality and elegance.
He has some, without going into too many details, I think like some of the best Vizago lines in the game are going to come from Act 3. I think there's some really great performance stuff there that I can't wait for players to see.
Yeah, I think we did a little video a while ago from our Team 17 publishing side of Aurelia being played as a hero in our Exile's Return Act 3 release later this year, which is also going to include those later Act 3 missions.
Yes, so Act 3, when it releases later this year, will have the final 3 missions. And those missions are going to be some of the most focused and also climactic missions of the campaign. I'm really excited. I can't go into too many details yet, but there's a lot of really cool stuff we're doing. And also a lot of the learnings we had from making the prior missions, especially with this mission and how we staged combat encounters, has really influenced a lot of the ways we're building the future missions. I really think the community is going to be really excited, especially with the amount of choice that's going to be offered later on in terms of how you play, whether you like to be a strategy player who likes to focus on siege weapons or more infantry units. You're going to find that the future missions are going to really adapt to that playstyle a lot better. Because there's the sort of things that as we're building these missions, we're starting to get better with the tools, we're starting to get more efficient about processes. It's really cool. By the way, quick community question. If anyone's managed to use this triage tab during this encounter, let us know, because
this one right here.
yeah, because theoretically it works, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone use it. So if anyone's used it, then please let me know.
Should I try and get a unit killed right here?
Oh, I could, but it might be out of the radius. God, this encounter went through so many versions. The Weavers themselves, we didn't initially have them as the focus for this mission. Initially, we played around with the idea of the Harbinger being introduced, but over time, we sort of lent more towards having the Weavers act as kind of a objective. If the players have figured it out by now, the Weavers are basically the main way the Volatists got into the prison, and it's why they were able to overwhelm it so quickly.
Man, that is a juicy tower right here.
Yeah, it's a very nice tower. I really like the prison art kit that we have. I think we used it in a few other small places, but this mission was really like based around having that art kit in play. And I think, for most development, it was really an interesting challenge because it didn't really look like a prison for most development. The layout was the same, but we were using placeholders for everything. And then the moment that we switched over to the final art kit, you could tell a palpable sigh of relief, and the team was like, "Oh, yeah, this is a prison now. Okay, cool."
And you mentioned that this was one of the first missions you had worked on.
Yep.
Were there any learning, like core big things that you took from developing this into the later missions?
Absolutely. So the way we structure our events, the way we structure narrative. Originally, this mission actually, in fact, had quite a different story. It was less focused. It was more so focused on Edwin, less so with the other heroes. But over time, as we kind of polished things up and we made improvements to the general narrative structure, we realized that there was a greater opportunity here to show a more all-cast roundup as they react to the events. Now we're coming into sort of like the final section. So a lot of this section was really driven by our goal to make the Order and Rebellion working together make sense in the context of the narrative. So it's really important that we send Edwin in here to basically go out of his way to save Cyrus. And that way, later on, once we kind of join together with the Order and Rebellion, which we'll expand upon more in the Act 3, we really wanted to build up towards that. So yeah, these combat encounters also underwent a lot of work. There's a lot of some minor details we had that were really important to just kind of showing the rebellion being overwhelmed by the volatists, and showing kind of the prison. As you've advanced through the prison, you start to see more and more the rebels are losing, and they are basically being forced into a position of retreat, which is really how we're introducing the danger of the volatists in Eridar.
I think one thing that I'm very close with you on is the boss fight. Not sure, we can't highlight too much detail on it, but something that I'm learning very quickly is being able to give you the idea of how big or small you can dream with your design.
Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely. I think that's a really critical part of development. Yeah, we can't talk about too much about the boss fight yet. I also don't want to because I'm very excited about it. I can't wait for players to see it. But it's going to be pretty cool. Originally, this level actually had a boss fight. Funnily enough, there was an iteration of this level that had nightmares in it for a brief period. We went through quite a few narrative changes, but we had a kind of showdown in this section here where between Edwin, Cyrus, and the Crusher. But sadly, it was kind of didn't really totally fit, and also at a certain point, we had some rewrites that we later took the nightmares out of this mission. So I think though that kind of laid us down the inspiration for in the future being able to execute on a boss fight in a way more polished, more focused way than we would have been able to have done had we put one in Mission 6. So yeah, Mission 6 7 influenced a lot of factors in Act 3 for sure.
Yeah, one thing that I've been pressuring on is being able to provide those different puzzle pieces and choices you get to kind of pull together to create and orchestrate what a boss fight would look like. And if we don't have the resources, how can we deliver that to its full potential, or from a designer perspective, as fun as possible?
It's a really interesting element of the job as a designer, because you have to figure out a way to make your designs work under what is a changing set of constraints. So good designers are really able to figure out what is the best path towards the goals we want, but working on the constraints we have. And it's a very much a sort of push and pull of production, design, development, all sorts of aspects. A lot of people put their passion, heart, and soul into this. So it's very much like as a team working together to figure out what's the best solution forward.
Yeah, I'm behind the scenes, very happy to have been able to solve our animation problems for our boss fight, and to be able to provide the design team with the ability set that they had initially desired to pursue.
Yeah.
Which is I'm looking forward to seeing that all come together over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm just admiring right now some of the prop layouts here. During development, you're often looking at missions. Everything is often very placeholder and bare. So in the final few passes, when you have an artist going through and prettying everything up, again, Hannah and Derek, shout out to them, they do an amazing job. You really finally get a sense of how the level feels towards the end of development, and it's always a great moment. It's probably slightly lost on players because they never get to see what came before.
Yeah.
And what everything looks like during development. But it really is just always amazing to see. And congratulations, Judy, you finished Mission 6.
Yeah, one thing I was really tunnel visioning in on is Alis here. I'm a big fan of Rhiannon, voice actor for Alis, and I actually have a session later today with her again for some of those lines for our final act.
Yeah, well, we're doing our final recording sessions now, which is kind of sad because, yeah, it's going to be our last time for now, working with the actors and actresses, but it's going to be, really good to wrap up the campaign. Do you have any other sort of questions, Huda?
Just admiring this.
The world map. Yeah, shout out to Perry and our technical artist, Rill. They did the world map. It's really cool. There's going to be some new features added to it in Act 3 that I don't think we can talk about yet.
So what missions in Act 3 are you very close with?
I'm very close with Mission 9, which I can't talk about at all. And I'm very close with the final mission, which I also cannot talk about. All I'll say is both the missions I'm involved in. Well, so I'm involved very much with Mission 9 and the final boss fight. So, which is going to be in the final mission. But yeah, they're very exciting, and the only hint I'll give is they're all very big. There's a lot of epic moments that are yet to come in the Age of Darkness campaign.
Yeah, I think something we just saw at the end of that mission was a little tease of where Aurelia's story is going to go.
Oh yeah, we set up a lot of things for Act 3, the end of Mission 6. With Edwin and Aelitz heading off, Aurelia and Vizago heading off, and these are all plot threads that we're gonna get to see come to fruition in Act 3.
All right. Well, without further ado, I feel that we can leave it there. And thank you very much.
I want justice! Vizago and the Volatists offer freedom and power. Goodbye, Edwin.
We must inform the Bishop of Vizago's return and assemble a force to stop him.
Dark crystal essence is the key to our power.
I'd rather die standing than kneel before a lunatic.
As you wish.
Your time is over.
We cannot be stopped!
Aurelia, come back with me, girl. It's not too late.
I'm sorry I can't be who you want me to be.